numbers there for both sides. Things starting to go Richmond's way.
G'day, I'm Ben Holland. Welcome to this week's edition of Tigerland on Fox Footy. Tigerland's where you'll find out what's going on around the club and get all the important news from the players and coaches every Wednesday night. Well, last Sunday we faced Melbourne at the MCG. Let's check out some of the action.
Anyway, boundary throw in. White gets the tap. Liancelli. You can hear the players calling for it. It's been intercepted by Duncan Callaway. Didn't want to. He's kicked it inside out. Torpedo. And he's put it through. Duncan Callaway's first goal of the season.
Drops on the northern wing. Kick forward. Richardson 1-on-2. Pushes Bizzle out of the way nicely. Good mark. That was legal. Richardson right on the boundary line. 50 metres out. Stafford. Punch away good. Roden! Hand to boot with ball incredibly quickly. Got his first. Good contest at the G. In the middle of the ground, Anthony McDonald back in the side after a couple of games for Sandringham. Fiora flowing through the middle. Kick was iffy but found the target in Roden. Long way from home. Roden gets it down. Stafford, a genuine one-on-one. Bizzle got back to help. Stafford almost marked off hands. Richardson. Umpire pays the advantage. It's a goal. Matthew Richardson's kicked his first. Robinson got the set on Duncan Callaway. Brought the ball to the ground. He infringed in doing so. The advantage has been paid here, and rightly so. As the Tigers, Pettifer bringing the ball forward. Ball out wide. Soccer off the ground, Callaway. Richardson in front, Bruce. Nudges him forward, Stafford. Richardson gets onto a lucky ball, runs to the goal. Got two, Matthew Richardson, two in a row.
Out to Rogers at half-back flank. They've got the numbers now up the wing. Comes out now to Coghlan. Coghlan has it on centre wing, has a bounce, looks up. Has Richardson, has Ottens. Goes short, Richardson's the man. Presenting himself beautifully, swings onto the right boot. A thumping right foot kick. Have a look at this from Richardson. He kicks his fourth. 4-0 for the Tigers to Matthew Richardson.
Andrew Callaway there again. Chip kick in the middle. This will open them up, and Frey Hall gets a ball that'll sit for him. Robertson closed them down, but the Tigers form the triangle around the ball. Handball over the top. Tawney. Tigers are away. Tawney kicks a long driving ball on the head of Stafford. Couldn't mark. What can they do at ground level? Roden stole it. Break the ball again. I haven't seen anyone do it quicker, and he's done it twice.
A fighting fury, we're from Tigerland. In any weather you will see us with a grin. Hey, risking head and shit. Hey, we're behind, we'll never mind. We'll fight and win. Oh, we're from Tigerland. We never wake until the final siren's gone. Like the Tigers of old, we're strong and we're bold.
So, a thrilling win for the Tigers, who led at every change and dominated the third term, kicking 6 goals to 1, to open up a match-winning lead early in the final term. And, despite a gallant fight back from the Demons, we hung on in a desperate finish to snap our losing streak by 5 points. 14-15-99 to Melbourne's 14-10-94. Matty Richardson started up forward for the Tigers to finish with 5 goals, while David Roden slotted through 2 incredible goals, and Greg Stafford also finished with 2. Richo was at his brilliant best, pulling down 11 marks and kicking 5 goals 3 in a fantastic performance. His 4 goals in the third quarter set up the memorable win. Mark Chaffee ran hard all day for the Tigers, collecting 21 possessions. David Roden was dangerous all afternoon, while Mark Coghlan continues his incredibly consistent form. Andrew Callaway also deserves a special mention for his hard-working performance. So, a thrilling finish to the game and fantastic to finally break that losing streak. Also good to hear the Tiger Army belting out the yellow and black around the MCG. Let's go now and listen to Tiger coach Danny Frawley.
We'll take the win. Look, there's a lot of positives come out of the game. You can always look at the last quarter in isolation, and it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough to let them get back into the game, but you've got to also realise that they ran over the top of Port Adelaide and nearly got the game last week, and then beat Brisbane in a similar circumstances up there. So they've got a hell of a lot of belief. Their style of play really did come to the fore in the last quarter. I think our boys deserved to win. We made all the play early, and I think that's where you look at games where they're won and lost, and probably should have been more up at half time. I think we kicked 2 goals, 6 in the second quarter, and all those 6 points were set shots from about 30 to 40. So if we had nailed them, we might have had a bigger buffer. But to Melbourne's credit, they really did come back hard, and we're really disappointed with our last quarter because we've worked hard as a group for a number of weeks. Haven't been able to get over the line. Played a good half against Collingwood. Second half was ordinary. Then we played an ordinary half against Essendon. Played a good second half against Essendon, and now we've played 3 quarters. So we just got to put the icing on the cake and hopefully play 4 quarters next week. There's a lot of kids who haven't played in a win. Newman. I don't think Mark Coughlin's played in a win since last year. So you're right, Mark. I think it's great for the kids to sing a song. And look, we've had a lot of youngsters out there, and that'll be great for them. A good learning curve, and we made a few fundamental mistakes late in the game to allow them in there. But as I said, I'm not taking anything away from Melbourne because they obviously got a lot more to play for than us. But it was great to see us, cause a bit of angst, and hopefully we can do that a little bit more before the season ends.
Well, sad news last week with the passing of all-time great Roy Wright. Let's pay tribute to the champion, known affectionately around the place as the Gentle Giant.
Roy Wright was a late starter in football terms, first turning his hand to the game as a 16-year-old with North Kew in 1945. But such was his natural ability that he found himself at Punt Road just a year later. He hadn't yet come to terms with his huge frame and still lacked coordination and experience at the highest level, playing just 21 games in his first 4 years at the club, which was already blessed with champion Brownlow medalist Bill Morris as its #1 ruckman. Former teammate and curator of the Richmond Football Club Museum, Ron Rifle.
Well, he was a ball player. He made a craft. I think he idolised Bill Morris, who was more or less keeping him out of the real #1 spot in the Richmond team. And Bill was a beautiful palmer of the ball, and Roy sort of adapted his game along the same lines, and he didn't use his weight as much as some people would have liked. But when he went through, he was still a hard man to stop because he was 16 stone and 6'2". He was a pretty big man for that era.
With Morris's retirement at the end of 1951, Roy finally received the chance to grab a regular senior slot, having already tried 4 times to get a clearance to Hawthorn. Richmond coach Jack Dyer couldn't understand why a 16-stone mountain of a man with a 10-inch handspan didn't inflict more damage on the opposition. But that was Roy's gentlemanly way, and he soon became known throughout the football world as the Gentle Giant.
Roy was a gentleman. He treated everybody exactly the same, whether you're a third 18 player or a Jack Dyer. He was very approachable and treated everybody the same. And I couldn't speak more highly of anybody.
Former teammate and eventual successor as #1 ruckman, Neville Crowe.
Oh, look, Roy was just one of those guys that played scrupulously fair football, and he worked on the theory, and I picked up on it myself because I was no tough guy. But at the end of the day, he said that, well, if he was getting the ball and guys were banging him and kicking him and doing all that sort of stuff, he felt that he was a much better chance to get the ball and do something with it, either in his palming or marking around the ground and playing. So bear in mind, he was certainly hard at the ball, but he wasn't the sort of guy that would go around punching and kicking and scratching or anything of that nature. But there was an incident, I think it's been fairly well recorded, but it bears going into. This is going back to my first year, 1957, maybe even the year before, 56, and he was playing on Skinny Martin, Brian Skinny Martin, Mick Martin's dad, who died only, about 3 weeks ago. Big Skinny was giving Roy a real working over, donging him and scraping him with the strops and the centre bounces and things like that, and Roy wasn't too happy about this, and Harry Beitzel was the umpire at the time, and I must confess, back in those days, umpires were men and not maggots, so he saw this happening to Roy, and after a goal was kicked, he said as they were running back to the centre, out of the corner of his mouth, "Roy, I'm giving you one shot." So the ball was bounced, Harry ran backwards, fell over, and Roy ran straight through Brian Martin, broke 3 of his ribs, and game over. So Gentle Giant sometimes.
Roy immediately blossomed once given the chance to play regular senior football, and quickly became the game's premier ruckman, winning the Brownlow medal in 1952 and again in 1954. He went on to win 4 club best and fairest and represented Victoria on 18 occasions before a knee injury prematurely ended his career in 1959 after 195 games for his beloved Tigers.
To see Roy at full flight here with booming drop kicks or torpedo punts straight down the ground to Poulter, who was the centre half forward. This ground wasn't big enough for those 2 blokes. 2 kicks from the back line. It was through the goals, and to see him work with Bill Wilson and later Ron Branton, it was really classic with his palming and his ability to move the ball to them. It just was terrific to watch.
Oh gosh, in my time of watching the Tigers, I had the good fortune of being a Richmond supporter before I was actually came down here to play. And my idol was Bill Morris, who wore number 5, whose number I was very proud to receive later on. But I watched Roy evolve. Bear in mind, I was only a little kid at that time, and Roy's got a rank up there at 4 bests and fairest and 2 Brownlow medals and 195 games. It doesn't get much better than that, given that he played quite a few, of course, in the reserves as he was trying to battle his way into the senior side. So he'd have to go down as one of the all-time greats, as his presence in the Team of the Century and, of course, the Hall of Fame honour that he received as well. So he's right up there in the top guys in the club over its history.
Roy was an inaugural inductee to both the AFL and Richmond Halls of Fame, and unquestionably one of the greatest to ever pull on the yellow and black. Roy Wright, forever remembered as a true gentleman, the great gentle giant.
Roy Wright, a true Tiger legend, and our condolences from all of the club to the Wright family. Well, it's time now to get up to date with everything that's happening around the club with the Tigerland Bulletin Board.
Log on to Richmond FC.